Healthcare is being overrun by the digital revolution. Artificial intelligence and personal health monitoring are transforming the way illnesses are diagnosed. Finland is at the forefront of this revolution, rethinking healthcare and pushing innovations. But why Finland? We believe in world-changing ideas and turning them into global success stories. Finland works for us. Now let it work for you. Business Finland. World Ideas.
Good morning and afternoon, and welcome to the Remote Digital Healthcare and Technology from Finland livestream. Thank you so much for finding the time in your busy schedules to join us today. We will do our utmost to make sure that the program we have for you today is worth the time that you're investing in it. We are joined by representatives from 5 different companies and organizations, and behind the screens there we have almost 40 journalists from Europe and Asia joining us from 14 different countries. My name is Hetta Huittinen and I head up international media and PR for Business Finland, and I'll be hosting you today. My colleagues Tsuishan, Katja and myself are extremely excited to be presenting our first ever virtual media event for you. As many of you know, we usually invite you to visit Finland and discover our companies on the ground here. But due to the pandemic, we've brought the companies to our studio here in Helsinki today and are presenting them to you online. You can also be assured that we are keeping safe distances from each other here in the studio, and we've been using plenty of hand sanitizer, and we're also using face masks when we're not on camera. And I'll mention here that we don't actually have an expert on the Finnish COVID-19 healthcare policy here in the studio today. We'll be discussing the pandemic when we discuss it from the company's perspective. But we have information and contact details for those officials in the press kits that you have received from us. You can now see the agenda on the screen. At the beginning of each segment, we'll show you a quick 5 facts from Finland video, and then we have some pre-recorded videos, some of which we have made especially for this occasion, which will then act as an introduction to the company. I will then be inviting a representative from the company or organization to join me, and I'll ask a couple of questions to start us off, and then you will be able to ask your questions in the message section, and I will then read out your questions to our guests. Now might actually be a good time to familiarize yourself with the functionalities of our live stream platform. You can see the 3-bar menu symbol on the left underneath the live stream. And to ask a question, choose message, write your name and media in the name field, and then your question and the person you're addressing it to into the message field. Actually, to test the system, maybe you could write your name and media in the name field now and a quick hi message to us so that we know that you're there and we know that everything is working. Also, we do have tech support available today if there are issues with the chat or any of the other functionalities. So if you have any questions on tech support, please address those in the chat. In order to see the questions you've asked yourself and also your comments from your colleagues or questions from your colleagues, choose chat in the menu. And I'll also be inviting you to take part in 2 polls, and to take part in one of the polls, go to the vote section in the menu. And also I'd like to remind you that we do have a 30-second delay in the questions and comments coming through to us here in the studio, so please bear with us if we don't react immediately. And one final thing before I ask our first guest to join me. Oura, one of the companies that we are presenting here today, has kindly given us one of their smart rings for the lucky draw, and we'll have that lucky draw at the event at the end of the event. So please make sure you stick around until the very end. And if you don't want to take part in the lucky draw, please let us know by sending us a message through the chat. So now, for the very first part of our program, and to give you an overview of the strengths of Finnish healthcare and health technology, let's watch a short video, and then I'll ask Kari Klosner, who is Program Manager for Smart Life Finland at Business Finland, to join me. Let's watch the video.
Healthcare is being overrun by the digital revolution. Artificial intelligence and personal health monitoring are transforming the way illnesses are diagnosed. Finland is at the forefront of this revolution, rethinking healthcare and pushing innovations. But why Finland? How did a small country like us become a global leader in digital health? Well, it's literally in our genes. Not only are we creative and full of ideas, but we have a unique and isolated gene pool. 100% of our patient records are in electronic format, and soon 500,000 Finns will have their genomes analysed. And we are open. International researchers have access to our world-class health data, including lifelong patient records, imaging data, and full traceability. Test beds allow health tech companies to develop services in an authentic hospital environment, and all this with a high level of security. Finland is also home to groundbreaking startups. Ozgenic creates virtual environments where surgeons can prepare for operations safely. Their aim is to prevent costly errors in surgery. Another pioneering startup, Nigen, provides a risk assessment for chronic diseases. The test combines genome-wide analysis with lifestyle risk factors. Finland is an ideal place for research and innovation for many leading international companies. GE Healthcare develops wearable technology in Finland, and Bayer combines its long experience in life science with the cutting-edge know-how of the local tech startups. So why Finland? We enjoy the world's best ecosystem for health research and development. We have world-class professionals and technology companies, access to health data, plus a legislation that supports the secondary use of the data in research and innovation. We believe in world-changing ideas and turning them into global success stories. Finland works for us. Now let it work for you. Business Finland. World ideas.
Kari, good morning.
Good morning, Hetta.
I have just a couple of questions for you, and at the same time I would invite our journalists to write your questions in the message section as well. So as we saw in the video, Finland has been recognized as a world leader in digital health. What do you think have been the keys to our success?
That's a great question, Hetta. We thought about that a lot at our work at Business Finland, and I really think it boils down to three different factors. A lot of them are also covered by the video. One is the strategic support and infrastructure from the government. Secondly, the culture and the attitude. And then thirdly, finally, research and our educational system. At the strategic level, what makes us successful is that we have a national initiative supported by our national government to become a world leader in digital health. And they outline that in a plan clearly of what we want to do there. And it's also the combination of different national government level agencies such as ourselves for funding, but also ministries and institutes of health who all work together to make this happen. So it's all about working things together at the national level. We have legislation allowing for use of biobanks and secondary use of health data for research purposes, which is very unique worldwide. Our electronic health records are all available and in live routine use, have been for years, even decades. So I, as a national, can access that system and have a look at my data. So I see what is being recorded for me and it's being used for research. So that gives me a level of trust into the system, into the authorities. So that brings me to my second point, trust and culture. We like to do things together between healthcare providers, the government, and private businesses. So that brings us a lot of strength. And that also allows us to work in an ecosystem fashion. An ecosystem is a very important system by which we facilitate innovation and allow companies, research, academia, healthcare providers to come together, and with funding from Business Finland in other cases, they can build things that really move the needle. Finally, education and research, point number 3, we have a world-known educational system at the base level education. Then building on that, we have a high-class university system where we have 25,000 people now in this country who are involved in research and development for tech, for medicine and science. And also maybe finally, we got lucky a little bit. Many of you know the story with Nokia exiting the healthcare, the mobile phone business. What happened here is at that point in time that also released a lot of resources in this country who were very knowledgeable in radio technology and mobile applications. And now that manpower, that brain power is being applied to digital health.
Absolutely. What do you see as some of the main roadblocks on the road to digital healthcare for Finland and for other nations as well?
Well, Hetta, it's a big change. And a lot of the healthcare systems are large and they move slowly. So a big ship moves and turns slowly, we know that. So that there's inertia to it. So that's a bit of a challenge. Not all the public, especially systems, are as agile as smaller private companies. Also, I think we still need to develop the understanding of what digital health can really bring to the table for healthcare systems. And not all healthcare systems are quite understanding what are the potentials, so we try to advocate that. Thirdly, when you deal with IT systems, when you deal with data, a big question is, are these systems compatible? Can they talk to each other? Can they exchange data? In a lot of cases, the standards are there, but the implementations are lacking. So that may be slowing things down nationally, not to mention internationally. And then finally, it's a highly regulated field, which is important, it's a good thing, but that also takes time for companies to understand what do they need to do in order to clear their product through the regulatory framework. So I think those might be the biggest roadblocks and things that cannot be overcome, but require expertise and time to deal with, based on what I've seen.
Yeah. Where do you see digitalization holding the greatest promise in healthcare?
Again, I see maybe 3 or 4 things. The first one I want to mention is services that are taken outside the hospital domain, health and well-being services. We have 3 great companies here joining us on stage later on, VideoVisit, Oura and Kaiku. And they're all great examples of digital services that are delivered to the patient at their home or workplace or elsewhere in the society. So we can now expand the access to high-level healthcare services outside the limits of the hospital. I think that's one. And this can be applied to a number of different conditions and disorders, asthma, epilepsy, cancer, even aging, pregnancy, things that aren't really diseases, but they are states of life where you might require some special attention. So that's one. And I think another one, perhaps I would take machine learning, artificial intelligence. A computer is very, very good at finding anomalies from large sets of data. And it does it day in, day out, the same way, consistently. It doesn't get tired. It doesn't have a bad day, a good day. And when you adapt that to, let's say, imaging, the interpretation of magnetic resonance images or X-rays, a computer can be a great tool that can greatly assist the physician in their decision making. And maybe thirdly, I would maybe take on the 3-dimensional rendering of medical data used in virtual and augmented reality, as we again saw in the video. Maybe those 3 things that I've seen that are really cool.
Excellent, thank you. And I see that we're getting our first question through the chat. So Ariana Sainz from The Economist is asking, what steps are taken to ensure that personal data is not misused when it is being used for secondary purposes, such as research? This referring to our legislation, of course.
Yes, that's a great question, Ariana. Thank you for that question. There are national safeguards in place to ensure that. So one, we have the legislation. So it's a law, it controls all of us. Secondly, we don't stop there. We have a national agency, it's called FinData, which is granting the permission to use the data for research. So in order to do that, the company or the organization who wants to do that, they have to go through background checks. So they have to provide a thorough research plan, and they need to report on how to use the data. Plus the data is being provided in an anonymous format, so you cannot identify individuals from the data. So I think those safeguards are pretty strong there.
Thank you, Kari. Thank you for those responses, and thank you for the first question. We're getting kicked off now. So thanks, Kari. And Kari will be available at towards the end of the event as well for any further questions that you might have for him. And now is actually the time for our first poll. So I would ask you to go to the vote section of the menu. And our first poll question for you is, have you used any health-related smartware? And you can now see the answer options on the screen. So option A, smartwatch, B, smart clothing, C, smart ring, D, other, or E, none. And I will share the results of the poll with you after our second segment where we introduce Oura. And to get us into the mood for healthy lifestyles, here's how many of us here in Finland live one. Roll the video. Oura Ring is said to be the world's smartest wearable. We will now hear an interview from Oura CEO Harpreet Rai that we recorded a couple of days ago in our studio because Mr. Rai is on the west coast of the US and the time difference is 10 hours for Finland, so the timing wasn't right for him to unfortunately join us live. But afterwards, after the interview, Mikko Kärkkäinen, who is the CFO of Oura, will be demonstrating how the Oura Ring works for us. And once again, I'll remind you to type your questions in the message box. Now, let's watch Harpreet Rai's interview.
So we got started in Finland with three co-founders, Petri Latala, Kari Kavela, and Markku Koskela. And I think between the three, there's expertise sort of in health and mechanical engineering and optics. And that really the idea behind it was people unfortunately are getting more and more unhealthy. And how can we provide a tool, and sort of a platform and eventually a system that can help people understand their health. And we decided to start with sleep first because if you look at some of the science of sleep, it has perhaps one of the most significant impacts on your health. All of our memories are consolidated in our sleep. All our muscle repair, all our physical bodies are restored in our sleep. Even our immune system is built and protected in our sleep. So. Everything from natural killer T cells, which fight off cancer, those are all produced in our sleep, and then also if you look at things like even collagen or testosterone, they're made in our sleep. So our body and our minds repair in our sleep, and unfortunately, we're getting less of it as a society. And we wanted to create a solution that could help consumers understand that, so they could improve their lives. Yeah, our mission is to empower people to own their potential. So I think the first word there is empowerment, making sure people really understand and can understand how to use information. I think when we think about ownership is a second word. Today, health feels like it isn't owned by the consumer, that health belongs with your doctor, your dietitian, your trainer, some website blog, a podcast you listen to. It feels like everyone's an expert on your health except you. And so we wanted to change that. I think health is really hard to understand. It works differently for different people. And, we felt like you needed continuous measurement, to understand your health. So that was really the idea of ownership. And then potential. Potential means being the best version of yourself. And I should actually say a better version of yourself. For us, we've always believed in doing research and research studies. I think as we've grown as a company, financially we're able to invest more in it. And frankly, I think that couldn't have happened at a more opportune time than COVID. So when COVID happened, I think we recognized that the world is dramatically changing, and we need to change too as a company to be relevant in the world and to help during a pandemic. And so our solution was, let's partner with those that probably are at the highest risk and are, perhaps could use the help the most. And so we actually started a study with UCSF, which is University of California, San Francisco. We actually donated 3,000 rings to frontline healthcare workers as part of the study. And now we also opened the study up to Oura Ring users and the app to enter their symptoms. if they choose to join the study. And luckily, a lot of our audience has over 60,000 users have joined that. 70,000 users, have joined that study. And so that allowed us and the researchers to start to analyze, all this data with people that are unfortunately, coming down with COVID or even other influenza-like illnesses. And what we found early so far is that we're seeing changes in the data up to 3 days in advance before the onset of symptoms. And we think that can really, really help in a pandemic. If people know that they may be getting sick, right, they can quarantine, they can get a test early, and they can effectively stop the spread. We know now with this virus that most people may not feel too sick, but they actually are and spreading these symptoms or this virus around. And in that sense, this virus is much more dangerous and stealthy than the average flu. We now have partnered both with the NBA on this for use inside their bubble in Orlando, the WNBA as well for their bubble as well in Orlando, and actually also Las Vegas Sands, which is the largest casino company in the world, in their premier property in Las Vegas with their employees. And then also, actually, we just announced yesterday NASCAR as another partner. I know we've already found a few people at one of those partners. I can't say which one for privacy reasons, that was able to identify a few individuals who were getting sick early and get them a test and was able to keep them safe at home from spreading the virus around to other people in their company. We do think Japan is a really interesting market. I think if you look at sort of people's interest in health and their cultural understanding of how health's important, I think that market makes a lot of sense. And we do sell online right now to over 90 different countries, and we'll continue to do that. But we do think we can do a better job at really creating more awareness in some other local markets. So. Right now, I think Japan's high on our list, as is other countries, in Asia and within Europe as well.
Thank you, Mikko, so much for joining us.
Thank
now,
you.
you have an Oura Ring and you have the app on your mobile. So can you show us a little bit how Oura Ring works?
Yes, so if I start with the overall solution, so we sell the ring and we offer the complementary app and also the web service then to follow the metrics and the guidance that we give. The ring itself is, I would say, cutting edge in terms of wearable devices. It measures your heart rate variance, temperature, movement, and also a few other metrics. And first and foremost, we are looking into sleep time biometrics and then providing this information on the app. I'll say a few words more about the ring. So it is completely waterproof. In Finnish, we could say that it's sauna-proof, and it's also very low maintenance. So you need to only charge it roughly one time a week or every 5 days. Looking at the app, so here is my personal data for us to view. If we start with the most obvious, since we are measuring and detecting biometrics during sleep, so there are 3 different scores that we give the user in the app, and sleep score is one of the first ones. So if we look at my sleep last night, altogether 7 hours of sleep, and my resting heart rate went down to 45 BPMs, which is pretty normal for me, and 79 points in general. If we dive in a little bit deeper in the sleep, we can see that we are also giving guidance on what is the distribution between the different sleep stages overnight. Like Harpreet mentioned, special emphasis that we try to keep is on the amount of deep sleep, and then in certain cases, for example, some people might be optimizing the amount of REM sleep that they have. Also, what's very interesting for me is to look at the resting heart rate. So you can hear in the diagram that I reached the lowest resting heart rate quite late in the night, or I should say early in the morning. And to me, that tells that actually the beginning of the sleep was somehow affected by something that I couldn't get into a restful status earlier. And in this case, I know that it was the pancakes that I made for my girls, and also ate some of them myself. Then if we look at another key score is the activity. We measure daytime activity, so general movement, also the time that you spend staying still. So for example, during the day, we through the app give notifications that now every hour it would be beneficial for you to move a little.
Exactly.
But also we calculate that what's the overall strain on your body, that if you're running or going through some other activity, we track that as well and use that in gathering a total activity score. Here I could say that we integrate on Android side to Google Fit and to HealthKit in Apple's devices for ease of use regarding bringing different kind of activities into the app. And then what's the most important score, in my opinion, in the app is the readiness score. So this is like an aggregate where we look at the sleep data and activity data from the previous nights and previous days, but also look at baseline data that's been accumulated during the last 2 weeks of ring usage. And here we emphasize some of the biometrics, like what's the heart rate or when in the night the lowest heart rate has been reached, like I demonstrated earlier, and then also the heart rate variability balance. So heart rate variability is one metric that we use to basically evaluate that how well rested the body is. So it's a little bit vague in terms of what's a good level of heart rate variability, because it varies between each individual, but therefore it's more important to then compare that what the heart rate variability is over time, for example, for you. And if we look at some of the features of the app, for example, trends is very interesting for this kind of longitudinal studies, and let's say sleep hacking or wellness hacking, which isn't all that difficult. So if we look at, for example, the statistics for the amount of on average deep sleep I've been getting on a monthly basis, we can see that when I started using the ring, this second generation Oura ring, in mid 2018, I was getting a little bit over 1 hour of deep sleep, and little by little I've been able to increase the amount of restorative deep sleep to roughly 2 hours. So and this is a very concrete example that we try to bring this kind of improvement into people's lives, and of course different people have different targets and also willingness for the change. I could give a small example regarding my parents, for example. They were I gifted them with rings late 2018, and they are avid sauna goers and also swimming in the lake, whether it be winter or summer. And after a month of use, I went to visit them, and I noticed in their sauna fridge there was non-alcoholic beer, and this was the first time in my life that I've seen this happen. And they explained to me that they've seen already that even having that one bottle of beer in the evening time can, in their words, destroy the sleep score.
Yeah.
So in this sense, the hacking of wellness, it's very simple when you have the accurate data to look at, and then you can also get the feedback loop that if I change this one little thing, you'll actually see the difference already next morning.
Yeah, thanks, Mikko, for that. That was an excellent demo. And at this moment, I'd remind our journalists online to send in your questions as well. You showed us. Here we go. Here we have our first question. So let's kick off with those. So once again, Ariane from The Economist has 2 questions this time. Where did Oura's initial funding come from, and where is the funding coming from now?
Yes, so we have received quite a lot of angel funding in the beginning, and therefore we have also quite a wide cap table for such a young company, or relatively young company. In the last funding round, we received funding from a couple of major US venture capital funds, Gradient Ventures and Forerunner Ventures. Also, we received strategic investment from payments company Square in the US. Also, at the same time, we have received funding from for example, Teollisuussijoitus, Finnish government fund for funding innovations.
Yeah. And the second question from Ariane is, there's much discussion about electronic devices and the need to monitor to stop the spread of COVID versus surveillance and personal integrity. What is your comment on that?
Yes, so we take it very seriously in terms of basically following in everyday use and everyday service that we give to our users the same type of integrity towards their private data. Then we also use the same principles in COVID-related studies. So it's completely up to the user to decide with whom they want to share their data.
Excellent. And then we have a question from Mickey Fong from the Hong Kong UK Apple Daily. Regarding the COVID-19, can the ring be a helpful tool for monitoring COVID-19 at home, i.e. to record a blood oxygen level of the user?
So, very good question. The blood oxygen level is something that we don't follow, or we don't measure it yet in the ring. But like Harpreet mentioned, we are looking at other biometrics, for example, elevated respiratory rate or elevated these heart rate, resting heart rate figures, and those are something that are now in the COVID research project that we are part of. Those are being validated in those projects, that how well those can be used for COVID-19 or influenza kind of symptoms, and their early tracking and uncovering.
Then we have a question from Romilly from the Digital Bulletin and Tech for Good. How important has Finland's relatively advanced digital healthcare ecosystem been in enabling success for Oura? What are the key advantages?
So far we have still steered away from the healthcare system as such. So we are categorized as a well-being enhancing system. That said, of course, having the kind of culture that we have in Finland for healthcare has, and for example, having this data-rich ecosystem has definitely impacted our founders in trying to find out ways to make this well-being data more accessible and easier to use for our users.
All right. Once again, a reminder to send in any more questions that you have. At this point, maybe I think we'll move on to the next stage of our program, since we don't seem to have questions coming in. And once again, no worries. I'll remind you that you can send questions to Mikko later as well. He'll be sticking around until the end. And at this point, I'll also remind you that you do have an opportunity to win an Oura ring of your own. We have one available for a lucky draw, and Mikko will be joining me for that at the end of the event. But now I promised you that I'd have the results of our first poll for you at the end of my discussion with Mikko. So I will share those with you now. So maybe not too surprisingly, most of you are using a smartwatch, 58%, and 54% of you aren't really using any sort of smart health device. But Mikko will be happy to hear that 7% of our viewers today are using a smart ring. So that's good news. And now, before we move on to the next part of our program, where we'll be introducing a health tech application, let's look at 5 facts from Finland health technology. Please roll the video. So next we'll be talking to Kaiku Health. Kaiku has a remote application for healthcare and symptom management for cancer patients, which can also be used for COVID-19 patients. First, we'll watch a short video on how their technology works.
Kaiku Health is a digital health intervention platform for cancer clinics. As an intelligent cloud-based platform, Kaiku can be deployed into a hospital as a standalone tool in one day. Kaiku Bridge interfacing engine integrates Kaiku effectively with existing hospital information systems. Hence, Kaiku is easily available for the whole care team. When a patient has met her oncologist and received her treatment plan, the care team, for instance the nurse, invites the patient to Kaiku. As the patient goes home, she stays securely connected to her care team through the Kaiku application on any device. Kaiku automatically interviews the patient according to structured patient-reported outcome guidelines relevant to each specific therapy. All data is analyzed by Kaiku Health's algorithm engine, powered by machine learning. After the adaptive interviews, the patient receives personalized feedback about her symptoms, including useful information and instructions for mild symptoms. The patient can, for example, easily send a picture of a skin reaction. All patient-reported data is delivered to the care team. If anything seems out of the ordinary, Kaiku Health notifies the care team immediately. The care team has access to a comprehensive decision support dashboard. It enables early interventions and supports symptom management according to latest guidelines. Our aim is to support clinical workflows of multidisciplinary care teams. Clinics that have Kaiku in routine use report high patient satisfaction, decreased phone call burden, and over 90% patient compliance to Kaiku's PRO questionnaires. The average age of a patient using Kaiku is 64 years old. Clinical studies have shown that digital patient monitoring can improve cancer patients' overall survival, improve quality of life, and decrease the number of ER visits and hospitalizations. At Kaiku Health, our mission is to improve quality of life through health data science.
I would now like to introduce Lauri Sippola, who is the CEO of Kaiku Health. Welcome, Lauri.
Thank you very much.
As mentioned on the video, you work with health intervention in cancer care. How is Kaiku Health supporting patients and care units now during the COVID-19 pandemic?
So we have experienced firsthand the increasing need for remote patient management during the COVID-19 pandemic, especially in the area of cancer care, because cancer patients are among risk groups for the novel coronavirus, and it is increasingly important to support remote ways of patient support and management. So actually we have seen, for instance, an increase of 180% in the number of video appointments that have been taken through Kaiku during the last 6 months. In addition to that, Geneva University Hospital in Switzerland, which is using Kaiku Health for digital patient monitoring of at their cancer department, asked us to develop a specific symptom screening module for COVID-19 related symptoms, which is now currently used in Canton Geneva in Switzerland. And actually after that, also here in Finland, Oura University Hospital implemented the same solution for COVID-19 symptom monitoring. So definitely an increase in the need of digital ways to support patients.
Yeah. I'm looking now here. Yeah, we have a question here from Joachim at ScandAsia. How can your solution be applied to hospitals in other countries? You mentioned Geneva, but...
Yeah, so currently Kaiku Health is used in hospitals in Europe. Kaiku is CE-marked as Class 1 medical device, and we have just recently also received clearance to work in the US and also Australia and New Zealand. So currently we are rapidly expanding the use of Kaiku Health in other countries. So currently operating in Europe, but expanding. And about how kind of from technological perspective, Kaiku Health is a cloud-based platform. So basically we can easily implement Kaiku Health to any cancer clinic remotely. As a cloud-based platform, and all medical staff trainings can be also made remotely. So actually, for instance, in Amsterdam, one of the leading cancer centers in Netherlands deployed Kaiku Health for monitoring of cancer immunotherapy patients actually during the COVID-19 pandemic, and that was done fully remotely. So none of our team has been able to visit the center in Amsterdam now during this pandemic circumstances, but still the implementation has been established there.
And it's been successful.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's excellent to hear. We have a question from Government Insider in Asia. Gov Insider Asia, name of the media. How is the training for doctors and other healthcare professionals changing to adapt to the new digital way of administering healthcare?
That's a very good question, and it is definitely a new way, a complementing way to support patients and actually provide more patient-centric care, because patients with a digital application like Kaiku is, by the way, Finnish and means echo. So we want to echo the voice of the patient, and in this very personalized way, actually kind of capture continuously feedback on the patient's well-being. So it is a new complementing way to supporting the care team, and it is of course important that we configure Kaiku to support the cancer care process of each clinic, and currently we are doing that already in 6 different countries in different kind of healthcare systems, in different kind of hospitals. So it needs to adapt.
Yeah. While we're waiting for more questions from our journalists, the roots of the founders of Kaiku are at Aalto University here in Finland. How have the surroundings and the community at Aalto University helped in creating Kaiku Health and its technology?
Yeah, the surroundings have been, of course, like instrumental in enabling this journey for us. So basically, when we founded Kaiku Health, we were actually studying at Aalto University here in Helsinki and interested in this kind of intersection of combining latest digital technologies and most novel medicines. And kind of, I would say there has been kind of three key enablers for us. One has been, of course, like this very much Aalto University-led kind of startup ecosystem that has been created or created around Helsinki area and Finland, and kind of in 2012 when we were kind of starting with Kaiku Health, that was also kind of there was the Slush that was just kind of starting to grow up, the largest health tech conference in Europe, and or tech conference, not health tech conference, and so kind of it was an inspiring and supportive kind of ecosystem to start to build a startup company. Then secondly, what has been for us then specifically in health tech important is, of course, that in Finland there is a high level of medical research. For instance, in oncology, really strong research foundation. So kind of being able to combine this research evidence base and contacts with really internationally leading researchers here in Helsinki, so that has been, of course, crucial. And then thirdly, definitely like the technological background and roots, kind of, and engineering roots, like I would say Finland has. So I think those three things have been quite important for Kaiku Health and our journey.
We have a question from Joachim. How can the obstacle be overcome in public hospitals, such as in Southeast Asia, that are stuck in the old world with little digitalization?
Well, an interesting thing, I think, now, for instance, with the COVID-19 pandemic, has been that kind of it has forced the healthcare systems also to kind of accelerate digital adoption, because it has been crucial to find ways to also support patients digitally, because you should avoid kind of always coming to hospital. So I think this has been an acceleration, and this is something, there is different things that need to happen. There is the technologies that need to be there, and we have those technologies available, but then also the healthcare systems need to adapt and go towards more value-based healthcare. Also kind of how for instance new therapies are created that is evolving to more personalized therapies and personalized medicine. So all these things together kind of shape the future and support the health systems. But of course it's those are complex things. So it is not so quick. We started in 2012. We thought everything will go much faster, but kind of we are going to that direction. We also visioned, but it's a bit slower.
Yeah. Another question from Ariane from The Economist. Do you do business in Norway? And if so, please tell me what you do and with which hospitals or companies. Do you have business in Norway?
Yes. So currently we do not have hospital customers currently in Norway. Actually, that is one of the areas we are, I believe, quite soon adding. Kaiku Health is actually part of Elekta, which is a Stockholm-based global leader in radiation precision medicine, and kind of with that and quite strong Nordics print, we have kind of also Norway quite strongly in our radar, and we do discuss with actually several hospitals in Norway. So hopefully soon there are first patients supported by Kaiku also in Norway.
Excellent. And that ties nicely to any other future plans that you have right now in terms of new markets or new developing technologies. Is there anything you can share?
Yeah, we are for future development. There are three critical things we are focusing on. One is kind of growing our footprint. Where exactly Norway, as one example, I said just FDA clearance for the US market, and as part of Elekta, which is already in 120 countries. So we want to provide access to more patients. Our vision is to provide personalized digital health intervention for every cancer patient. So increasing access for patients. Secondly, we are collaborating with global leading biopharma companies to create interventions, digital interventions specific to specific drugs, and there, for instance, in the area of cancer immunotherapies, we have interesting global collaborations ongoing with several leading global biopharma companies. And then thirdly, we believe that digital interventions will be in future reimbursed and should be reimbursed by health systems, and we are driving towards reimbursement for digital therapeutics in cancer care.
Right. We have one final question from The Economist. How much of a burden does the digital technology put on patients? Do they feel they have to they are constantly being monitored, tied to a doctor or hospital, do not have privacy? Do they feel that this is just one more chore, one more digital hassle? What's been your feedback?
Actually, our feedback is the opposite. So basically, what we hear from the cancer patients using Kaiku Health, average age 64 years old, and so what we hear is that by having Kaiku application at hand is empowering. The patients are reporting that they kind of understand in a better way kind of what is happening. With the cancer patients, there is a huge amount of questions and many times quite hard actually to connect with your care team and find how can I ask this question to my care team. So now Kaiku continuously in the pocket, supporting the patient in a personalized way. So what we hear from the patients is that this is empowering, and most kind of the patients are of course like average cancer patients. The population is we are talking about older people. So it has been also for us, and especially in the beginning, a bit surprising to see how motivated the patients are and how high the adoption of the patients is to start using an app to support their well-being, and the benefit is clear for the patient.
Perfect. Thank you, Lauri. And Lauri will be available for questions at the end of our session as well. So any further questions you might have, you can ask a little bit later. So far we've heard from Lauri from Kaiku Health, we heard from Kari from Smart Life Finland, and we heard from Harpreet and Mikko at Oura. And now to set the stage for our third and final company today, VideoVisit, let's have our second and final poll. So our question now is, what kinds of remote or virtual services have you been using either during or before the pandemic? And once again, go to the vote section in your menu. The response options here are A, remote exercise, B, remote education, C, virtual travel, D, remote medical follow-up, E, others, F, none. And once again, I'll share the results with you after we've spoken with VideoVisit. And we're keeping those facts coming. So next we have 5 facts from Finland, Finland in figures. So as mentioned, the third company that we're presenting to you today is VideoVisit. VideoVisit will present its remote healthcare solution for the elderly, which is used already in several Finnish municipalities and is also showing great promise in the UK and other countries as well. I've invited Juhana Ojala, CEO of VideoVisit, and Mika Fiskari, who is the medical engineering specialist for City of Espoo, to join me in watching the next video. We recorded this video a couple of days ago in Espoo, and on it you'll see Juhana and Joel from VideoVisit, as well as a nurse and an elderly customer, talk about the service and their experiences. And once again, you can leave your questions in the message box. Thanks for joining me, gentlemen. Let's watch the video.
VideoVisit is a remote care platform, a holistic one that is offered to primary care, secondary care and social care service providers. We combine together all the necessary elements of remote care, such as online doctor appointments, online doctor consultation, remote patient monitoring, and especially for elderly care, virtual care service targeted to home care and care home services. In Finland and also globally, the population is aging, which creates a lot of challenges for the healthcare and care service providers because they are lacking resources to match with this growing number of elderly population. Virtual care is up to 85% more cost efficient compared to physical care visit. And our customers have calculated that up to 30% of all home care contacts could be done virtually through our platform. In Finland, we have over 200 municipalities using the virtual care service in elderly care services. These 200 municipalities provide virtual care services close to 5,000 home care recipients daily.
Keskimäärin mun työpäivässä on noin 25-28 asiakaskontaktia, riippuen vähän onko aamuvuoro, iltavuoro, viikonloppu. Etäpalvelun kautta voidaan tehdä paljonkin asioita asiakkaan kanssa. Varmasti suurimmaksi osaksi se liittyy lääkehoitoon. Seuraamme, muistutamme asiakkaan lääkehoidon toteutumista. Voidaan seurata asiakkaan ravitsemuksen toteutumista. Jokaisella kontaktilla myös keskustellaan asiakkaan kanssa ihan päivittäisistä asioista ja näin ollen todennäköisesti myös yksinäisyyttä sillä ehkäistään, että on ainakin yksi ihmiskontakti per päivä. Hyvää huomenta, Mats.
Hyvää huomenta.
Mitä sulle kuuluu näin keskiviikkoaamuna?
Erittäin hyvä mielestäni. Kaikki menee oikein hyvin.
Miten oletko sä sun aamulääkkeet ottanut jo?
Olen ottanut aamulääkkeet.
Mitä sä tänään söit aamiaiseksi?
Minä söin heittolaista jogurttia, semmoinen missä oli sitruunaa. Ja sen lisäksi leipää ja leivän kanssa oikeastaan vain juustoa ja sitten luonnollisesti kahvit päälle.
Ja kahvit päälle, hyvä. No sitten ihan näitä tällaisia terveyteen liittyviä, sairauksiin liittyviä asioita, niin asiakas voi ohjattuna mitata verenpaineen, asiakas voi ohjattuna mitata verensokerin ja sitten pistää itsellensä insuliinin. Mielenterveysasiakkaiden kanssa on tukikeskusteluja. Voidaan käydä tuolijumppaa. Se on aika suosittua, että on montakin tuolijumppaa per päivä. Voidaan tehdä myös aivojumppaa, eli tämmöisiä helppoja tietokilpailukysymyksiä.
COVID-19 has drastically changed the way we interact with our elderly patients and customers. Our elders have had to isolate. Also, their families cannot see them, and there has been a great increase in loneliness and the need for more contact. Luckily, we've had remote technology in use for some time now, and we have been able to swiftly take it into use.
With COVID-19 outbreak, we are focusing on expanding our virtual care to new markets as rapidly as possible. As an example, last spring, UK NHS handpicked a VideoVisit solution as one of the turnkey solutions to support elderly and the vulnerable people for COVID-19. Outside UK, we are also focusing, for example, the Nordic market and Asian Pacific market, where our main focus for this fall is to deploy our service to Japanese markets.
COVID-19 on vaikuttanut etäkotihoitoon ja minun työhön sillä lailla, että meillä on tullut paljon lisää asiakkaita. Etäkotihoitoon on tullut paljon myös asiakkaita, joilla aikaisemmin on käynyt kotihoito paikan päällä, mutta COVID-19 on vaikuttanut siihen niin, että omaiset tai asiakas itse ovat halunneet lopettaa kotihoidon kotikäynnit ja siirtyä etäpalveluun. Miltä tämä etäkotihoidon palvelun käyttäminen tuntuu? Että onko sinusta soittoon vastaaminen ja tämä keskustelu, niin onko se vaikeaa vai helppoa?
Se on kyllä ihan asiallisen helppoa, sanoisin.
Mitä hyötyä sinulle on tästä etäkotihoidosta?
No kyllä se on se turvallisuus ensinnäkin. Niin totta kai, että jos yhtäkkiä tapahtuu jotain.
Hei hei.
Hei hei.
Juhana, we saw you on the video, so let's start off with you Mika. You come from the city of Espoo. Why did Espoo choose VideoVisit service, and what have been some of your results when you've been using the service?
Well, the case of remote care became relevant to Espoo 4 to 3 years ago. We had like neighboring municipalities that were using VideoVisit already, so we went and saw how they were using it and how they were liking it. And from there on, we continued to negotiate with VideoVisit, and we liked that they had a good business case, how to implement the service, that it's kind of a plug-and-play system, that no integration needed, that we just take use of their services. As for results, we have been growing a lot during the year and during the COVID-19, so it's doubled our customers during the previous year. And now we are doing, from all the home care visits that Espoo does, it's over 6% is done via VideoVisit as remotely. And this is done by a team under the size of 10. So it's quite a lot. If we in home care, we have over 400 staff altogether. And over 11% of our elderly customers get some visits via remote care, and a fourth of our patients are in only remote care. So from 150 something patients, fourth of those are only in remote care.
Okay. Do you see similar developments in other countries as well? Is the system being used in a similar way as it is for Espoo, and are they seeing similar results?
Well, I have to be honest that especially with the COVID-19 outbreak, the remote care technology providers and also the healthcare providers were more focused on providing remote care services to patients like us who are familiar with using mobile phones and operating, for example, receiving online doctor consultations. But the elderly population was a little bit left out. And based on this, we actually have seen a lot of demand from different markets in Asia, but also in here in Europe. And the UK example was a great one, that the NHS actually picked VideoVisit as the only foreign service provider for the TechForce 19 project. And our market analysis has shown that there actually isn't a similar solution in the market that has been deployed with a such scale that we have been able to complete here in the Finnish markets.
Yeah. We're getting some questions online. Maybe from Joachim in Scandasia, the question of how this could the solution could be applied to hospitals in other countries. Could you or healthcare providers in other countries? Could you maybe expand on that a little bit, Johanna?
Yeah. Well, I think it's tied with implementing integrating the technology to care processes. So in Finland, we have the Finnish model and Finnish way of providing remote care services. Of course, that's not the only model, and that's so the model depends on which market you go. And for us, we have seen that it's really important to first understand that what is the existing processes for example, the hospital, how they are operating, and then we teach them and we support them to build up the remote care process, such like we have done with the city of Espoo, for example.
Yeah, and there's actually a question here about how it is to train doctors or other healthcare professionals in the use of this, for example, your solution, and digitally administering healthcare. Maybe as an expert from Espoo, you could maybe, Mika, share how the whole training and adaptation process went in your among your healthcare staff. How easy was it to start using this system?
Well, that's kind of almost the hardest part of these technologies, that it's many times it's easy to think that you can just take some technology and replace the way you are doing things with a new way of doing things, and it's always only a one part of your whole work is like the visits or something. So we at the first we are still in a project phase, so we are like building the ways we need to do it and how we need to teach our staff about these things.
Yeah.
So we need to not only look about how we use like this VideoVisit service, but how we use other like HRRs, like electronic health records, so that we can, because now we are using the screen to have this video meeting, but how are we going to write the things that we are talking about? And those are like things that we many times neglect. And now we are noticing that we need to teach all the digital ways of doing things at the same time when implementing like this new way of having the contact.
Yeah, yeah. Once again, a question about markets and specifically Norway. Which markets are you looking to expand to now,
well,
Johanna?
As I mentioned on the video, our primary markets for this fall is the Asian market, especially the Japanese market.
Yeah.
But also we are looking to more, so to say, the home market, so expanding from Finland to other Nordic countries.
Yeah.
And especially we are focusing on the Norway and Swedish market.
Okay.
So we know that especially in Norway there is a huge demand for this kind of service. They have the same issues that what we in Finland had, that the elderly population had to isolate themselves. For the Norwegian market, they really didn't have this kind of solution in place. So there is a need for this with the COVID-19 and also after COVID-19.
Yeah. All right. It doesn't look like we're getting more questions online at the moment, and Mika and Johanna will be around at the end as well for any of your questions. So at this moment, I'll thank you and ask you to not run away before the end of our show. And I think now we were supposed to have the answers from our poll. Do we have those ready? Yes, we do. Okay, so it looks like most of you haven't been using any services, virtual or remote services during the pandemic or before it, 50%. And after that, it's a tie between using remote exercise classes, for instance, and then some other remote or virtual services. So those were the results of our poll there. And now for our final video for today. We couldn't miss this opportunity to do a little bit of bragging. So here are 5 facts from Finland top rankings. So we're now nearing the end of our live stream, and it's time to start wrapping up. As I've mentioned, all our guests are still around. So any questions that you have for any of them, please go ahead and write those in the message box. Before we get to your questions, I would like to remind you that we have the HIMSS European Health Conference and exhibition being held from Helsinki virtually next week. The information about the conference is now on your screen. And we very much encourage you to take part in the conference if you are interested in learning more about Finnish expertise in digital health. And now I think we've got some of our questions that have come through. And the way we're going to ask those is, first of all, I will ask Mikko from Oura and Lauri from Kaiku to join me. And we'll first go through a couple of questions for Oura and Kaiku. So Mikko and Lauri. All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me again. Sure. All right. So for Oura, there's a question from GovInsider Asia. Wearables tech has made it possible to keep tabs on overall well-being instead of just curing sicknesses when symptoms appear. With this, how can healthcare professionals and hospitals work together with companies that make wearables to improve healthcare services? Is this holistic approach to healthcare currently a priority for Finland?
So I cannot speak for the Finnish government, of course, but maybe commenting a little bit that yes, we see this movement and try to be an active player in the movement, and completely agree that this kind of bring your own data type of thinking is coming true. We've seen it so far come true. Not so much yet in the mainstream, but a lot of the private, more holistic healthcare organizations are actively using wearables, for example, for gathering more information, not just medical data, but also general well-being data from their let's say not patients, but
users.
Users.
Yeah. Exactly. And for Kaiku from Romili at Digital Bulletin and Tech for Good, to what extent is integration with existing legacy systems in clinics or hospitals an obstacle? We hear a lot about competitive friction between platform providers. Is this a problem?
Well, it is something that definitely kind of impacts the kind of speed of adoption. And interoperability is extremely important, especially thinking about the healthcare teams' workflow and how they can utilize different new tools that can be very beneficial decision support systems. So I believe, and kind of technology is already enabling kind of integrating different systems. So it is not a problem, but definitely something that kind of we continuously need to overcome. But also like movements like Mikko mentioned, to bring your own data kind of thinking, that's the future, and kind of there we need to understand that kind of patient ultimately is the owner of his or her data, and kind of and he or she needs to be able to kind of connect all the pieces of his or her data, so it cannot be dependent on which system is having which data. It all needs to come together, and it will come. Technology enables that, so it's not really a problem we need to have this. And what we at Kaiku Health are taking is an open platform approach. So we need to connect with all the sources of data.
Yeah. Looks like we're not getting any more questions through, but is there something else that you wanted to share with our journalist still, now that you have a chance?
Well, please go ahead.
Okay. Well, one thing I could share, what is very interesting from my point of view at what we are doing at Kaiku Health is kind of the kind of future of digital therapeutics. So basically, we will be looking at different kind of digital interventions in a similar way as other like medical interventions. So we will have this new category of digital drugs, and those will need to be also kind of health systems will and need to reimburse those based on the evidence on the clinical outcome and health economics. These kind of interventions can provide, and this is the future. We are not yet there, but I think like tools like Oura soon can be also used now more in the well-being side, but in the future probably as actually a tool for medical improving clinical outcomes for some patients. So that's an interesting kind of future area where we definitely are going, and I hope kind of some companies like us from Finland can drive that future, because it's definitely kind of very scalable, easy to access solutions for patients globally.
Yeah. Yeah, and Mikko, did you want to still add something?
Well, maybe I'll continue with the bragging side.
Yeah, usually we Finns are not good at it, but today we're trying.
So one thing that I want to emphasize, that Oura has been a true born global company from the beginning. That the mission has been to ship our solution, the rings and the platform, to as many people as possible all around the world. So even though we have not actively been building user communities globally, still we are shipping every week to places like Singapore and Japan, and I think we are over 120 countries currently already.
Yeah, that's excellent. All right, thank you, gentlemen. And if there are any further questions for Mikko and Lauri, then we'll deal with those via email. We'll send those through that way. And now I'll ask Kari to join me quickly as well.
Thanks.
Thank you. So Kari, you had an answer.
Yeah, thanks for asking me to come back. I wanted to come back to address the question earlier.
Okay.
Because the question is, what's the government's view on combination of health and medical data?
Okay, go ahead and sit down, have a seat.
I think in short, I would say we are very favorable of the approach that our industry is taking in this regard. The combination of medical and health data holds a great promise for the improvement in healthcare for obvious reasons. And through our funding mechanisms, we are very active in the field, and we are funding projects, initiatives that are targeting this type of applications to be developed. And what I wanted to mention here also, because you mentioned HIMSS.
Yeah.
Thursday morning, between 9 o'clock in the morning and 11 o'clock in the morning, Finland time, Business Finland and Sitra are together hosting a Good Morning from Finland live web TV show. And in that show, we have a 45-minute segment devoted to this specific domain, where we have experts discussing the use of medical data, use of health data, and the combination of the above in order to advance health. So I think we're pretty serious about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you have the information for the HIMSS conference available to you, so you can easily go back and check the timing of your event if you want to hear more about government use of health data.
Yeah, and in addition to that topic, we also have 3 or 4 other very exciting topics along the lines we discussed today coming up on live Thursday morning.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Kari.
My pleasure.
And as Kari, I'll ask you to leave right now so that we can take our next gentleman into the studio. So if Juhana from VideoVisit and Mika from the City of Espoo would join me one last time for questions. And here they come. Excellent. Please have a seat, gentlemen.
Thank you.
All right. So we have, I believe we have a question from Mari at NHK. Hold on. Oura, no. VideoVisit mentioned Japan as a next promising market. Would you elaborate, Juhana, on why you think so?
Well, from VideoVisit perspective, we are of course looking the markets where there is already a huge population of elderly people, or where the elderly population is growing rapidly. And Japan is for many years has been having this issue with the growing elderly population and how to provide the healthcare services for them. So we actually been active in the market for almost 2 years now, looking for the best go-to-market channel and the best possible partners for the market. And for us, we believe that not only the Japanese market, but the Asian market in general, that's a huge opportunity for any health tech company focusing on the elderly care market. So it's going to be one of the driving markets for us in the future.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, there's another question for you from Ariana from The Economist. Obviously, video care is very important during the pandemic, but especially with elderly, nothing substitutes for human touch. How does remote care compensate for lack of physical touch?
I would actually pass this question to Mika.
Okay, thanks. For many of all our elderly patients or customers, it's they are lacking more of the conversations and the meaningful interactions. Of course, there are the needs for physical contact also, but at today's world, many of these physical visits that we are replacing with video visits, the physical visits might be rather quick and they are just doing the stuff that they need to do and going around the house. But these video visits, they can really they do the things that they need to do, check their medicine and check have they eaten and how the day is going. Yeah. And then they still have time to talk about something, how's the day going, and it's quite intensive, like 10 minutes that they have.
Yeah.
And it's something that we have been looking into more, that maybe we need to have more of these kind of services for wider population, that they need these conversations more than just some quick visit at home.
Yeah. All right. Then we have a question from Anthony from The Independent. What challenges are there for elderly people using remote technology, especially those with hearing or sight difficulties? Is there a percentage of elderly patients that this will never be practical or possible?
Well, if I may start.
Yeah, sure.
Of course, this kind of service is not matching with all the, for example, home care clients and recipients who are receiving daily care. So for that reason, for example, the customers that we have in Finland, the municipalities, they calculate that 30% of these home care contacts can be done virtually. So there is still the 70% of the population that still need physical visits, and it's just not possible for treat them. But the main target for service like video visit, virtual care is actually be a solution that supports the home care service providers and nurses who are doing the actual groundwork, so that when the number of patients grows, they still have the same resources available. So they actually can provide the care for a bigger population with the existing resources. So it's more a supporting tool for them.
Yeah. Do you want to add to that, Mika?
Yeah, it's. I think the same, that it's not for all, but if they were said that for someone with sight problems or hearing problems, then we have like they provide us with this speaker that we can use, that if you don't hear so well, and we are thinking of trying to, if we could connect the device to a bigger TV if the patient has that in their home.
Yeah.
But of course it's not always possible, but that's something that we are thinking also, that some people don't see well enough.
Yeah, excellent. Then we have from Lian Zhaobao in Singapore, That Media. Finland is very advanced in terms of technology and digital product consumption. One challenge for many elderly people here in Asia is that they are not digitally savvy, and it'll be very hard to persuade them to pick up amazing tools such as VideoVisit. Is there similar challenge at all in promoting this service in Finland at customer level, or is it mainly targeted at business institutional level? Thank you.
Well, to answer that question, it's actually a really great question, because that's one of the first questions we will receive when we go to new partner, new customer, and we start to implement the service. Of course, the service has to be designed for the use of the elderly. So in our case, one example is that we provide our software built in on a tablet, and the tablet is always on, and it's on a kiosk mode, meaning that the elderly person is not able to utilize the service for anything else besides this remote care service. And also, for example, City of Espoo's virtual nurses can provide the calls so that it's what we call automated calls, so that they will open the call to the tablet, so the elderly person doesn't even have to touch the tablet. So the main criteria is not actually that how well the elderly person is able to utilize the technology, but it's rather that how well the elderly person receiving care remotely is able to follow up the instructions given by the doctor or the virtual nurse.
Right, right. Then we have a question from Romilly at Digital Bulletin and Tech for Good. Can you share any details about the rollout of VideoVisit in the UK since the NHSX award? Some key numbers in terms of adoption?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of the UK market, we are now actually finalizing negotiations on multiple different partners in the region so that we can deploy our service faster to the market. We have a few care providers utilizing the service today, but I would say we are still on an early road on that. So probably the next year is going to be a big push for us in the UK market, but it was a great entry for us to the UK through this NHX project.
Yeah. Then Juanjo is asking, can't these video visits be made through Zoom, Skype, or any other platform? Well, what other platform do you offer? Or what else does your platform offer? Sorry.
Yeah. Well, we are actually not competing with Zoom or Microsoft Teams because those are targeted more towards, for example, online meetings, and our focus is purely on the elderly population. So the video communication is a really important factor, but that's just one layer on the platform what we have, and on top of that we have built, for example, user interfaces that match with the requirements from the elderly side.
Yeah.
So we could utilize Zoom, but we actually have built our own video system in our platform.
Yeah.
We also have other solutions in our platform, so we are also not addressing the primary care and secondary hospital care segment with our own online doctor appointment and consulting features. We also have a remote patient monitoring module in our platform, so we can extend the service beyond the elderly care, but that's the main focus that we have seen, that there is more interest.
Yeah. Then from the GovInsider in Asia, GovInsider Asia, what has the feedback been from doctors providing remote care through videos? How have they had to change their way of diagnosing and interacting with patients? Maybe Mika, you could share some of the feedback that you've had from your healthcare providers in Espoo, and then Juhana comment on that or add to that.
Yeah, well, I think it's been mainly positive. Like only like. At the moment, the only negatives that we have are if we can't catch the patient. He or she is somewhere else and she's not available when we are trying to call, or we can't hear him or her, she's too far away or something. But the video quality is enough, and it's if you plan the care that you are trying to do in a way that you know that you are doing it via video, then it's really doable. And we are also experimenting with other devices, telehealth devices that the VideoVisit offer, that we can have like EKG or stuff like that through VideoVisit also, and it's been really good.
Yeah. Any comments from other markets, maybe from doctors where you've deployed, on how you need to use?
I would go back once again on the process side. So it's actually quite easy, if I may say, for example, elderly to utilize the solution, and also the family members. So we have also a mobile application that gives the access for the family members to place calls to the elderly, and that was actually really useful during the COVID-19 lockdown. But what Mika was already talking is actually changing a little bit the way how the doctors are doing their daily work, and that sometimes can be really challenging because the tradition they have been taking the patients in their own room, and now actually the patient is coming online, and it's a little bit different functionality that requires a lot of work and also a lot of focus when we are implementing the service.
Yeah. From Ariane from The Economist, what happens if the technology stops working and patients are cut off from remote care?
That's maybe for Mika.
Yeah, well, these devices are working on like mobile network, so this obviously can happen if the patient gets cut off from 4G or something.
Yeah.
So we have plans for that. We normally are always in contact with the normal home care, and we plan a visit. And we have also, if we have an acute need that we really need to go there, so we have one department that can go rapidly to visit the patient.
Okay.
But normally we just make a normal phone call. Is everything okay? And we maybe try doing it later. But if it's an acute visit, the normal home care will do it.
Okay. I think maybe one more question, I think the rest will probably need to leave for email.
Yeah.
So one from Romilly again for Digital Bulletin and Tech for Good. We are in a world where trust in science seems to be eroding. For example, all the nutty conspiracy theories around COVID-19 and vaccinations. What do we need to do to make sure people can trust digital health services?
That's a really interesting broad question, but I would. This is my personal opinion now. I actually believe that there still has to be the human touch involved. So even though we are digitalizing the services, when there is still on the other side, there is another person interacting. That's actually, I would say, maybe step number one towards the digitalization and building up that trust.
Yeah.
So that's just my personal opinion.
Yeah.
And I think that keeping in check the expectations that we have for technologies, that if we build up the expectations too high, then we get dissatisfied with the results. So start with small and don't aim too high.
Yeah. All right. Excellent. Thank you so much, gentlemen.
Thank you.
I'll now let you step off the stage, and I'll thank you for your time this afternoon. And we'll move on to maybe the part some of you have been waiting for, which is the lucky draw of the Oura ring. And for that, I will invite Mikko to join me again to draw the name. So Mikko, please come forward.
So
and now
here are the names.
Here are the names. Excellent. And I will mix them up a little bit, like that. And then you can draw the name of the winner.
Yes. All right, and the lucky winner is Alessandro Rampazzo, and hopefully I spelled it correctly.
Excellent. So big congratulations to Alessandro. We have your contact details. The ring is here. You can see it in Mikko's hands. So we'll get that to you as soon as possible. And maybe if I ask you to take this away as well. Thanks, Mikko. And congratulations to our winner. All right. So this event would absolutely not have happened without the help of my super colleagues, Tsuishan and Katja. Between them, they have organized dozens of media tours over the years, but this was their first virtual one. So please, Tsuishan and Katja, join me. And honestly, I think they deserve a huge round of applause. So I hope you'll applaud behind the screens as well. And we're doing our applause in the studio. All right. Thank you, ladies. And stay put. On the screen now, you see the contact information of the representatives of the companies and organizations that we've spoken to here today. Also, there is more information for you available in the press kit, which is in the Dropbox that we've provided for you as well. And also, Tsuishan, Katja, and myself, we can be contacted for any follow-up questions that you might have. We'll also have a recording of this event available for you in about 24 hours' time. And as this was our very first virtual media event, we'd really appreciate your feedback. The feedback link is available in the chat, and also we'll be sending that to you via email. So please send us feedback on how we did today. Now I'd like to thank all of you behind the screens. I would like to thank all our guests here in the studio, the ladies next to me, and thank you so much for joining us, and I wish you a very enjoyable rest of your day. Thank you so much.